Is anyone buying this with Jade Cargill? Since arriving in WWE with the undeniable presence, the incredible look, and the mountain of hype, she's already a women's tag team champion twice. And now she is about to be someone watching in on Money in the Bank. But after a reported situation, I think it's time to discuss what WWE could be doing. Because a very interesting tease regarding a confrontation with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown, it has drawn some eyeballs and it's sparked discussion. It's received some in a positive light and some in a negative light. And I think we are dealing with a situation in which needs to be looked at. Jade Cargill coming off of a big win at WrestleMania 41 over Naomi. Well, she confronted Charlotte Flair on SmackDown, yet she was met with a hostile crowd and saw Flair walk off. Some fans want the match, others suggest that Jade needs NXT developmental. Yes, they are still calling for her to go down to NXT because of her in-ring work or her promos or whatever. But there is likely a showdown between these two. It has been reported that WWE is discussing doing this match at Evolution 2. Now, this is a premium live event taking place on July 13th, and it is nearly a decade removed from the inaugural event in 2018. Let's look at the recent histories of these two women's over the last few months and see where we're at, see where we're going, and see if this is a direction in which you should buy. Now, in March, Jade Cargill, she came back. She confronted Naomi, who was the mystery attacker at the Elimination Chamber PLE, and that set up a significant build towards WrestleMania 41. Now, Jade Cargill went over Naomi in a stunning WrestleMania 41 match. Not the greatest, not the worst that you will ever see. And then in May, we had the confrontation with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown. Then we had a situation in which Jade worked a Money in the Bank qualifying match on the May 30th episode of SmackDown. Her and Naomi were in it, as well as Nia Jax, and WWE opted to go with Naomi going over the two to advance. Charlotte Flair, she came back in February, won the Women's Royal Rumble match, earning herself a championship opportunity at WrestleMania 41. She opted to go and challenge Tiffany Stratton for the Women's Championship. They actually had to turn Charlotte from a babyface to a heel, and they had to switch Tiffany Stratton from a babyface to, or a heel to a babyface because of the crowd reactions. Now, Tiffany Stratton obviously went over Charlotte Flair in that contest, and that was a stunning situation, right? And since then, we have had segments with Charlotte Flair, having segments with Alexa Bliss, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, heading into Money in the Bank. Now, let's talk about it. Let's talk about, should you buy Jade Cargill going up against Charlotte Flair at Evolution 2? Now, on paper, this is a match that is significant. On paper, this is a match that sets these two up in a big time way, and it does such good stuff for both women. Let's look at it from Charlotte Flair's point of view, right? She's a top tier future Hall of Famer, multiple time women's champion, top star for almost a decade. WWE clearly holds her in high regard, some of which may be higher than you or I would, right? Some people think that she's just a smidge overhyped and a little overrated, and I can get that discussion. What does Charlotte Flair did out of a program with Jade Cargill? Well, I think it comes down to this. Charlotte Flair is likely going to beat Jade Cargill in this feud, okay? Especially if you book it at Evolution 2. That's a marquee top-tier match. It'll have a lot of controversy, and more importantly, it'll have a lot of debate within the wrestling community because Jade Cargill, polarizing figure, Charlotte Flair, polarizing figure. But if you're looking at it from a Charlotte Flair standpoint, feuding and working with someone like Jade, well, it helps her maintain her top-tier status, and it also gets her a win because I cannot see Jade going over Charlotte this early on in Jade's career. Although WWE has been hyper-focused on protecting Jade Cargill and booking her to their best ability and keeping her strong and winning matches and being on the top of programs. But when it comes to Charlotte Flair, They have always protected her way more than anyone else. Now, they did go against that grain at WrestleMania 41, where they stunningly had her lose to Tiffany Stratton and not win the women's championship. I think that speaks volumes, and I think it is something to take into consideration. Now, on the flip side with Jade Cargill, she's been in such a great feud with Naomi the last few months. And while I still think it was a mistake that Jade did not go and put Naomi over at WrestleMania, because I think Naomi earned that right, well, they're still playing this feud out. And I think we will ultimately get a blow off match somehow, somewhere, sometime. When you talk about Jade Cargill and the positives that come along with the Charlotte Flair feud, I think you have to look at it like this. It elevates her star power because she's working with a bigger star than herself in Charlotte Flair. I think most people would agree. I also think you have to look at a situation in which Jade is probably not going to win this feud, and that doesn't hurt her stock because I think the rub in which she will get by working with someone like Charlotte Flair is going to be bigger than the star power that she loses potentially in a loss to Charlotte Flair. Then they're going to make up for that. Also, from a worker standpoint, from an educational standpoint, from a learning perspective, Jade Cargill working with Charlotte Flair is a big deal because she's going to get in there. She's going to be able to have promo segments. She's going to be able to learn that kind of trade. And when they get into the ring, she's going to learn a thing or two by Charlotte Flair, who I'm not the biggest fan of Charlotte Flair's character. I'm definitely not the biggest fan of her promos, but I will say that in terms of when she's on, when she wants to go out there and work and outperform anyone on any given night, she can do so. She is one of the best in-ring workers from a psychology standpoint, from a moveset standpoint, from just the littlest of details of, okay, I'm going to do this here and I'm going to do this here, and they're going to connect to the next spot, right? That to me is what makes a great worker, not necessarily all the flips and dives and, you know, fancy dancy stuff that anyone, can do, right? It's always the little thing. So I do think we are going to be getting a Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair program. I don't know if it's going to be happening at Evolution 2, but I'm very curious to see where WWE is going, how they get to Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair. I mean, you could make the argument that it could just be built off of disrespect. I can see that. I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. And we will see how exactly they get to it. But until then, let me know down in the comments here below. What do you think about this potential feud? Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair. It's going to be pretty good, y'all. I'm ready for the match.